Top 10 Infectious Disease Research Topics. Healthcare-associated infections in the U.S. For this topic, you can research the statistics of healthcare-associated infections, HAIs, in the U.S. Discuss the most prevalent types of HAIs, contributing factors, and healthcare costs. How can hospitals effectively prevent these infections? Search for relevant case studies to support your point. Pathogens, infection cycle, and disinfection methods. You can start this paper by exploring different pathogens causing infectious diseases. These include bacteria, viruses, fungi, and others. Then, discuss the stages of the infection cycle, from incubation to convalescence. Finally, examine various disinfection methods, including physical, chemical, and biological ones. Ear infections and pain. In this paper, you can review different types of ear infections, like otitis media and otitis externa. Determine their causes, symptoms, and risk factors. Examine the role of pain in diagnosing these infections, especially in children. End your essay by exploring treatment options, including antibiotics and pain relief. Central line-associated bloodstream infections. Central line-associated bloodstream infection is a severe condition that occurs when germs enter the bloodstream through a central venous catheter. In your paper, you can explore the causes of such infections, paying particular attention to the role of healthcare providers' violation of standard aseptic precautions. How can healthcare workers and patients prevent these infections? Ebola virus infection, general overview, statistics, diagnosis, and treatment. Here, you can start by describing the origins, transmission, and impact of the Ebola virus. Present statistics on Ebola outbreaks and affected regions. How is it diagnosed and treated? What challenges do healthcare workers encounter when managing it? Answer these questions in your paper. Urinary tract infections and indwelling catheters. This topic requires you to examine the relationship between indwelling catheters and urinary tract infections. What are the risk factors and possible complications of these infections? How can healthcare professionals prevent them in hospital settings? Consider options like proper catheter care, hand washing, and avoiding unnecessary urinary catheters. Invasive pneumococcal infections in young children and older adults. Children younger than 2 years and older adults aged over 65 years are especially vulnerable to invasive pneumococcal infections like meningitis, bacteremia, and pneumonia. You can focus your paper on exploring the importance of vaccination and other preventive measures in these age groups. What challenges does antimicrobial resistance pose to managing these infections? Causes of wound infections. This paper can focus on discovering the causes of different types of wounds, including surgical wounds, traumatic wounds, and pressure ulcers. Discuss the role of bacteria and fungi in developing infections. Also, pay attention to the significance of the wound environment and patient factors. What are the most effective ways to prevent wound infections? Tuberculosis as a highly contagious infection. In this essay, you can explore what makes tuberculosis so contagious. Consider the transmission routes of tuberculosis bacteria. How can this disease be prevented effectively? Discuss such strategies as proper hygiene, good ventilation, and the use of respirators and surgical masks. Infection control in nursing homes. Here, your task is to study the unique challenges of infection control in nursing homes and long-term care facilities. Consider older adults' vulnerability to infections and other risk factors that make infections difficult to control in these settings. How can nurses address these challenges and prevent the most common conditions in older adults, like influenza or soft tissue infections? Find more research topics on studycorgi.com.